Spring is finally here, and we are so excited to get back outside and in the garden. I'm Farah Jadrin. The blooms are starting to come out, and the sun is finally shining again after a long, dark winter. During this gardening special, we're going to share tips and tricks to make your garden as beautiful as possible and answer some of your questions, too.
I love the livid Tweedledee roses. And if you take care of them right, they put on a show like you can't believe. But the key is you do have to take care of them right. Okay, so the first thing you do is in the spring, you're going to cut these things down by 2/3. That's usually around March 1st to an outward facing bud. And then they grow back much bushier and they flower way better. But there's pruning you have to do in the summer too. If you let them go to rose hips, which is their seeds, then they know where on earth to reproduce. So they go, all right, I've done my job. I'm going to kick back, take the rest of the summer off, get a good suntan, and do nothing. So you can't let them raise a family. You got to cut those flowers off, you know. Take that, buddy. So I give a mix of these to my roses every 6 weeks, and they bloom like crazy. So I've made a mix here of the organic fertilizer and the alfalfa meal, and you use 2 cups per average size tea rose just to give you kind of a guideline. And you want to put this around the entire rose and work it in. If it just sits on the outside, it doesn't work very well, and it could even attract rodents. Yeah, I think this is just about perfect now. Nice and worked in. It's not going to attract any rodents, but it's going to make it flower like crazy. I have one last thing you have to do. Make sure that you make some bouquets for your sweetie pie. They'll be so impressed when you make a bouquet of these beautiful fragrant flowers. I wouldn't be surprised if you'll get something really special like a Brussels sprout casserole for dinner. Oh la la! Je suis Ciscoe. Bonjour, mes amis. Hey, do this to your lavender right now, and it's gonna look great all summer long. I love the living tweedle out of lavender. It's so fragrant. You get these wonderful flowers. You can even cook with this stuff, some of them. But if you don't do a special thing, you're going to develop bare stems, and before long, this plant's going to be so ugly, you're just going to get rid of it. But there is something that can delay the onset of those bare stems. Now, usually you see me using my hand pruners, but today I'm pulling out the heavy artillery. And all you people at home, don't let your spouse get their hands on these. They'll turn all your plants into balls of donuts. But these plants, the trick to keeping them from getting bare stems is you have to shear them down to 1/2 inch above the bare stems this time of year, every spring. Okay, let's go for it. So we don't want to cut into the old woody stems down here. We want to cut about 1/2 inch above those. If you cut down to the very bottom, it'll grow back 1 year if you're lucky, and then the whole plant will just fall apart. Okay, I admit it. This is going to look a little hacked back. That's why don't listen to the books that tell you to do this in fall, because you'll have an ugly plant sitting there all winter long. If you do it in spring, this will start growing right away. Before you know it, you'll be seeing those beautiful blooms coming out of here. Now, I have to give you a warning now before I quit, and that is If you prune your lavender like I just described, you're going to gain weight. That's because you're going to think of Provence when you're pruning it. Next thing you know, you're in the house eating baguettes and pain au chocolat.
Throughout the show, we're taking your gardening questions right to Ciscoe. First up, Julie in Tacoma says they have a cherry tree that's been planted for 3 years and they're worried about how to prune it correctly. Here's Ciscoe.
Well, it's a little tricky pruning a cherry tree for the first time. You probably don't want this thing, if it's a dwarf cherry, then you probably don't want it to get, 40 feet tall, because dwarfs will in time.
Oh.
So you might want to prune to control the height.
Okay.
But when you do that, it's going to make a lot of other branches go.
Okay.
So normally what we do is just thin them out. If there's any crossing branches, you'll take out the weakest one.
Okay.
And try and open it up, get some of those sprouts out of the middle, because that's where you're going to get better air circulation, and that'll keep your tree a lot healthier and prettier.
Crows are ravaging lawns all across western Washington. Several King 5 viewers have written to us asking why it's happening and how to stop it. King 5 meteorologist Leah Pizzetti with our Environment Northwest team shows us this problem is buried deeper than the grass.
This Federal Way backyard is an oasis.
Just keeping it natural, trying to do what I can to help, the native flora and fauna.
Created by Camille Perezelski to welcome flying friends.
My 3-year-old knows names of birds and will call it out.
Until recently, when one specific kind took over.
I did not expect this, and at the ferocity at which they went to task was pretty insane.
It's a widespread problem in this neighborhood. A murder of crows destroying lawns. At each crime scene, blades of grass and a mess. So we called in backup.
Hi.
Hello, welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Gardening expert Ciscoe Morris says the criminal might not be the obvious culprit, despite the damage.
Because this is becoming a big problem. As you can see, your neighbors got it. And
But together,
All right.
they can dig a little deeper and get to the root of it.
break that up a little. Let's see if we see something in there.
Within seconds, the real suspect is revealed.
That's a European chafer beetle grub.
An invasive species found in the Pacific Northwest only in the last 10 years.
It's kind of like a horror story,
The beetles, just as bad for lawns as crows, if not worse.
They're eating the roots, so they're wrecking your lawn either way with the crows. It's not going to look like this, but it's going to thin out really bad.
So while the crows seem like the suspects,
unfortunately, they're kind of sloppy eaters,
they're actually the heroes.
You've got pests, and then the beneficials come in and eat up the bad guys, and it is kind of the circle of all of it. And so crows, they are actually helping out. Hard to believe as it is.
And with this new development, Camille is back to welcoming all birds to her home, even the murder of crows.
They are back on my friend list here, no longer in the doghouse, as it were.
This criminal investigation,
Thank you for figuring this out. Gross.
now complete.
Case closed.
We love our four-legged friends, I know I do, but if you're trying to make your lawn look nice, your pooch may not be helping. Let's get back to Ciscoe to answer this question from Aaron, who wants to know, what is the best grass for dogs?
Oh, la,
You have dogs,
la.
I have dogs.
I've had dogs since I was a little kid. My wife and I actually measure how many years we've been married by how many dogs we've had.
Makes sense.
But here's the bad news. There's no grass that can deal with dogs.
Okay.
And if you have more than one, they're going to tear that lawn to shreds. And all you could do is wait for them to get older. When they finally get a little older, they don't play quite as hard. And they're always going to have one trail through the lawn no matter what. But don't replace the lawn with mulch or anything. Just wait. If they dig holes, that's the worst. Then you got to put some fencing over it or something, fill it up with soil, and you could put some seed in there. When the dogs get older, you can rent an aerator machine, you know, that pulls the little plugs out of the lawn. Looks like somebody had a Chihuahua festival out there, you know. But and then you could drop the seed in the holes, because the seed won't come up well if you just put it on the areas that are all dead. You got to get them down in the ground, and that works perfect. So you'll have a lawn. You just got to wait 8 or 9 years.
Coming up after the break, we take a closer look at some of the best pest-free bulbs and what you need to know when planting your vegetable garden. As you're picking out your new plants for your garden, it's good to know what gardening zone you live in. The USDA has mapped the whole country into zones that correspond to how cold a region generally gets in winter. They go from Zone 1, which gets really cold, to Zone 13, which doesn't get below 65 degrees. Most of Western Washington is in Zones 8 and 9. So when you're deciding what plants to buy, be sure to check the tag to see if the plant makes sense for our climate. If you're picking out veggies to grow this year, lettuce may be an easy first crop. Ciscoe explains how to get started.
Well, spring is sorta sprung. And one thing I love about spring is that you get to grow your own salad. And I'll tell you what, I am a salad hound, so I can't wait to get them going. And by the way, you don't have to have a big space to plant lettuce and salad greens. You could do it in a little pot and you'll be eating salad greens for a long time. First thing you gotta do, I bought some good potting soil, got a little pot with good drainage, and I made sure that I got some all-purpose organic fertilizer. Now, I'm gonna grow peas. I love snap peas, they're so good. These snap peas that I got, and I bought these starts in my local nursery, they get 3 feet tall. So in order to grow those and have it work, I need to give them a trellis. Is this the coolest trellis you ever saw? We'll put the little birdie in the front. I'll just stick one right down there, and these will just cling right to this cool trellis. So this is giant red mustard, and it tastes so good. Oh, that is so tasty. So I've got all this wonderful mustard in here. Now I want one of my all-time favorite salad greens. So this is arugula, and it's really good for you. So I'll tell you what, I'm a big walker, and after I eat arugula, I walk like a rocket. Now for the grand finale, you want to make sure that you water this in, because you kind of have to beat the tweedle out of these things to get them out of those little pots. They'll come back like little gangbusters. I'll just come out and pick individual leaves off every night for my salads. And I'll be eating salads with great peas, by the way, for weeks and weeks out of this pot right here. Oh la la, I can't wait.
As you're planting your vegetable garden, make sure you're arranging the seedlings next to ones that will grow well together. It's called companion planting. Ciscoe shares more on how it works.
So it's time to plant spring veggies, which is so exciting. But did you know that vegetables are like people? A lot of them really don't like each other. Others love each other. So we got to figure out which ones to put together. So what is better than like snap peas and snow peas in the spring? I love these so much. So what do they love? They love salad greens, so they're crazy about spinach, so we can plant those around there. And I got some nice yummy lettuce, and peas and lettuce just love each other. I can stick some of this great mustard in there, that'll do really good. But whatever you do, don't plant onions anywhere near peas. Nothing in the onion family next to the pea family. Not by beans, not anything. And I mean chives, garlic, nothing like that. Because peas and onions hate each other. Neither of them do well if they're near each other. So carrots love everybody, you know. You could grow them with any salad greens. And I hear the onions back there crying. Don't feel bad, onions, because carrots absolutely love you. If you grow carrots around your onions, the onions repel the carrot rust fly, which is really good. Who else we got here? Okay, we've got the diva of the vegetable garden here. These are Brussels sprouts. Now, it's a little early to plant these, but I'm going to give it a try anyway. These guys don't like hardly anybody. They hate the salad greens. They're not that crazy about carrots, but they love onions. So you two get to hang out together. I hope you have a good time. Finally, I've got one more thing you want to plant in your garden. Plant some lavender out there. The blue flowers are so attractive to bees. You'll get pollinators, and so you're going to get a lot more fruit on your veggies as summer goes along. Oh la la.
There's nothing worse than coming out to your vegetable garden only to discover the fruits of your labor have already been eaten by snails. Ciscoe shows us how to get rid of these mollusks safely and effectively.
The biggest menace we've got in the Pacific Northwest is slugs and snails. It drives gardeners crazy. Right here I've got this beautiful ligularia. Snails and slugs consider this a gourmet treat. And look at what I just discovered right there. One little bad hombre for sure. All right, you're gonna pay for this, buddy. I'll get you later. All right, so you can see there's some damage in this. And yep, there's a hole right there. That means a snail was here. So I've got to use this defensive device. So this is the new slug bait that's got iron phosphate for the main ingredients. It's so safe. The woman at the Flower and Garden Show was eating it all day to show how safe it is. I haven't seen her since then, but oh la la. Okay, now here's what people do wrong. They get a big fat handful of this, and then they just throw it in there, and it breaks down really fast. So you're wasting an expensive thing. The way to use this is sprinkle it in about, not very much. You see, it's probably gonna be one handful of this. And you wanna do this like every 3 days if you got a plant like ligularia that the slugs love, hosta, any of those. So that's the way to do it. Just make sure that it's in there. I never put it on the plant, I put it underneath. As safe as it is, people ask me, well, what if my dog ate some or something? Well, you know, if you sprinkle a little like that, if your dog eats a little, I'm sure it's not gonna do it any harm. But I have heard that dogs, if they get in to the whole container, if like you leave this sitting there and the dog knocks it over and eats it all, then you're gonna have a problem. So what I recommend is do my little invention here. So I took 2 pieces of plywood, just nailed them together, and you just sprinkle it and then put this over the top. The Fido's not gonna get to that. I call this invention Slimy's Diner. I should patent this. So if you do a little at a time, like I do, and you do it, you know, every 3 days or something, the only slugs and snails gonna be left in your garden are the ornamental kind.
Other garden pests like deer and bunnies could threaten your spring blooming flowers. Ciscoe shows us which bulbs the critters won't go for.
Nothing cheers up the garden like spring blooming bulbs. And boy, There are so many great ones to choose from. The problem is deer and rabbits and voles and other critters tend to eat them up. So you gotta find the ones those guys will leave alone. Here's one of my all-time favorite. There's no bulb easier to grow than grape hyacinth. Look at those blue little flowers. And the best thing about them is that the bunnies and the deer don't eat them. Hey, wait a minute. What is this? Well, they're not supposed to eat them. Okay, I guarantee they're not going to eat the ones I'm about to show you now. Look at these beautiful flowers. These are my favorite flower on earth, except for a couple others I'm going to show you in a minute. So these are called Chinodoxa, or Glory of the Snow. And these can even grow in Wisconsin. And I remember when I was a kid, they would come up and peek out over the snow. So they're a wonderful plant. They're coming up all over the garden. This is one plant that can come up wherever it wants. I love the living Tweedle out of this thing. This thing is so special. It's a fritillaria. This little beautiful plant has one thing it needs. No deer, no rabbit will ever touch it, but they die out for a lot of people. And you know, they don't like too much sun. They hate drying out. So here's my trick. This is my favorite little bird bath, and all the birds love this. It's an old petrified stone, so I always add water to it, and the water always comes down this side and keeps this spot nice and moist. So it's a special trick, and I've had these for years thanks to this. Oh la la. And here's a wildflower you can't go wrong with. So it's called Erythronium. People call it dogtooth lily. And I guarantee no deer, no rabbit, no nada is gonna bite this thing. All they need is a little sun, and they just become a bigger and bigger clump. Just indestructible. So I leave you with one thought. When I was a little kid, I had the cutest little pet bunny you'll ever see in your life. I hate those bunnies now!
While Ciscoe's helping solve some of our gardening woes, let's get back to him to answer another viewer question. Jamie says her clematis has powdery mold on it.
Yeah, powdery mildew, it attacks plants that are under stress.
Okay.
So for whatever reason that plant's under stress.
It needs a long walk.
Yeah, it does. You got to talk to it nicer. Don't bore it though, whatever you do. But what I would do is thin it out a little when it grows up so that it's not so crowded, more air circulation. Don't get the foliage wet. That's going to cause all kinds of trouble. And I think just fertilize it well. And by the end of the season, it may get powdery mildew. If it does, you could spray it with a product called neem oil. This is an oil squeezed out of a tree from India.
Okay.
Safe stuff. It's vegetable oil. You spray it on there, first sign of mildew, it'll get rid of it.
Before you get gardening, you'll want to have the right tools in your shed. We took a trip to the nursery with Ciscoe so he could show us some of the must-have garden gadgets.
We're here at Swanson's Nursery, where I'm going to find some really cool garden gizmos that'll make gardening more fun and easier for you. Okay, I've already got every one of these gizmos that I'm going to show you, but I love every one of them, so I know they're good. So this is something you absolutely have to have. If you're a right-hander, you want Felco number 8s. If you're a lefty, you want Felco number 9s. It fits a small hand really well. It's really a wonderful tool. You should have your Felco pruners every time you walk out the door of the garden. They're like the 6-gun for the Old West cowboy. I sleep with that under my pillow. Now here is a tool you need. This is not a pogo stick, but this will aerate your lawn. It pulls those plugs out. Now, so you just get on there and stomp that down. This is the mega plugger right here. Just don't try and plug a whole big lawn with one of these. You'll be walking like a cowboy that rode the horse way too long. How many times have you turned on the sprinkler and forgot to turn it off, wasted water, drenched an area? You could even flood your basement. So you need a timer. Oh la la, this thing looks pretty complicated. Let's see if we can find something a little simpler. Here's my kind of timer right here. You just set it for the amount of time that you want to run it, turn it on, it'll turn itself off. This is my baby. You don't have to have a doctorate degree in faucet timers to put one of these to work. So if you're like me and you bring dirt into the house, marriage counseling is getting so expensive, so you need a good doormat. Boy, that one's pretty cute. Like that. Oh la la! Look at this lady beetle. Oh man, no doubt about it, this baby's coming home with me. I got the last one. Oh boy. Oh, that is so cool.
Thanks so much for joining us today, and happy gardening.